Welcome back, dear viewers and listeners of Smart 24 TV. We continue with our topical discussion that is dealing with climate change, managing its effects on the socio-economic livelihoods of Ugandans. A lot is desirable to be understood and possibly be put into action if we are to make a turnaround of our socio-economic opportunities to be realized. And before we went for the commercial break in this second session, we had reached on the area of not apportioning any blame to anyone, but yet going into the insights of responsiveness, especially the relationship between the decentralized governance aspect, where in local governments all over the country, we have districts. The information we are sharing from our expert of climate change needs to be shared across board beyond the piloted districts. We appreciate, as I'm in agreement with you, the government will, but we would like to transit or transfer the government will into patriotism.
Political patriotism.
Political patriotism.
Yes.
Political patriotism.
Yes.
Where what is being said and planned for in form of these policies since 2015 can be realized. We appreciate you, the NGO world, for your initiatives to support and to fill gaps where the government is having gaps. But still, would like to know what is your plan of doing what you call inclusiveness and responsiveness, participation of all, whosoever matters in order to participate. Because this is the information personally, and those who are viewing, we are sharing, and we are happy to have you this evening. How can we first fill that gap before we go to the discussion of the priorities that are available?
So the inclusiveness and participation of citizens is very important. And for me, the plan and mindset that government had of decentralizing, decentralization,
yes, please,
was a framework that was going to enhance, that should enhance that inclusiveness, because then decisions are best made where they are most needed. Or actions are planned for where they are most needed.
Excellent.
And that was the mindset of the decentralization.
Exactly.
But you see, when it came to the actual implementation, we have seen remnants of temptation to centralize. Okay? Let's take an example of revenue collection. Yeah, and now I understand that some revenue from local governments is now taken to the central government through by URA. Okay, that money that was supposed to be at the local government, in my opinion, should have remained at the local government level and address local government level issues, because this problem we are dealing with is a problem of all of us. You can't say it's a problem for government alone. You can't say it's a problem for one political party or the other. It's a problem for every citizen of this global universe and every citizen of Uganda. And what we are missing out is to take ownership as citizens of the issues and problems that we are facing. We have a people who are constantly saying, government etuyambe, government etuyambe. For me, that mindset is bad. I wish we can have begin to inculcate in the citizens to know that yes, the government is there to help us, to provide us with the social goods and services, but there is a responsibility we have as citizens, yeah, to contribute to the whole story of governing this country. And that's why you have the LC system, and I think the structure that we have is a good one, because decision making is done at almost all levels. It's now the application, the investment, that still remains more central than decentralized. And that's why we need to do some changes. Before we broke off, we were discussing the issue of energy.
Yes, sir.
And I wanted to show you how the energy story connects quite a number of things, including climate. When you take people off dependence on firewood and charcoal and translate them to gas, you have now saved the forest that should have been cut down for firewood. I know that the forest will still be cut down for timber and the other products, but at least we'll have reduced the demand for wood for firewood and charcoal. Basically, all of them are for energy, for cooking and that kind of stuff. And so I would like to see a plan where government of Uganda is going to use the gas that is going to be extracted from our oil, like I said, to replace that energy gap. I would like to see a situation now that the president is also talking about the use of solar-powered cars and buses, to see the solar powering of houses promoted. I use solar energy at home. I chose to use solar energy at home. I invested into a solar energy system.
You're not using hydroelectric power?
I only have grid electricity to do other small things.
Okay.
But 75% of my power that I use at home is solar energy. And I have seen the beauty about it. It's expensive to install, but it's a beautiful thing to have. When people are load shedded, I have light at home. I have power in my home. And so can we have, because I know for sure that even in the next 50 years, there are certain places of Uganda that the grid electricity will never reach. In the next 50 years.
Yes, sir.
So must they wait for even 100? Must they wait for government to bring the power lines to them for them to enjoy the electricity, the renewable energy? So can we have a policy? Both.
1 second. What's the relationship of you utilizing the solar energy compared to climate change? What's the relationship?
The relationship is that now you have moved away from depending on firewood or paraffin or kerosene, which are emitters, to light homes, because many people still use the candle, the paraffin candle.
Yes.
Yes. So once they have solar energy in their homes, they will stop that burning of kerosene.
They will not use candles. They will not go for
which are carbon emitters, CO2 emitters,
yes, sir,
and carbon monoxide emitters,
yes, sir,
which are the gases that we are grappling with in this climate change story.
But even they cause even effect on health.
Yes, yes, I know that Uganda, as a country, we are emitting very small amounts of emissions into the climate, into the global climate, but still, we need to have actions at country level that will contribute to the global level.
Okay.
Yeah, and so these are some of the interventions that will help us to reduce our net contribution to the global climate impact.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, so let me put that one aside. There's the issue of water.
Yes, sir.
We talked about food production and we said we need to do smart production. But there's also the issue of water.
Yes, sir.
For me, when I travel across this country, I am saddened by so many things. We have a land surface that 18% of our land surface is covered by wetlands.
18%.
Yes, it's I think 18 or 13% around there. Covered by wetlands and open water body systems, including groundwater. So when I go to places and I find places are dry, I'm saddened. Because we have not deliberately invested in making sure that such communities actually have access to water. Even the boreholes that you see that are sunk, what makes boreholes dry? Boreholes are dried because the water table has finally dropped. Why has it dropped? Because the catchment has been mismanaged. Trees have been cut, vegetation has been cut, so the percolation of water into the ground has been changed, and the obstruction from the ground by the boreholes has taken much of the water out. Weather, climate has also heated up the earth, that there's no more water that is staying long enough in the ground to percolate to the water table. So what does that mean? That some of the investments that government has put into boreholes, which have now become dysfunctional, becomes wasted. Calling for us to then drill them deeper to get to the water table. Can we manage our catchment in a manner that is going to allow these water tables to regenerate? Because I was part of a project which was in association with scientists from India. The project was based in India and I was one of the associates where they worked on groundwater recharge, allowing the water to get into the ground And within 1.5 years of that project, the community boreholes that had been non-functional became functional. Because what happened? The water table was risen and boreholes became operational. So we need to make sure that we have innovations that allow for people to have water at household. I've grown in a period where, and I've seen where houses had rainwater harvesting gutters and tanks. And it used to be a policy then, I think in the 60s or something, and I saw it in around 70s, right? So nowadays you see people building excellent, beautiful houses. They put water drainage gutters, and what are the gutters supposed to do? They are draining the water away from the house, and the water goes away. There is no longer a process. No one is no longer there are few people who are putting up water harvesting tanks, but it should be a deliberate action that every household should have a rainwater harvesting tank.
Every household
Should have a water harvesting tank. And it is very easy to compute the amount of water that you may need in the dry period or the forward dry period, because you base it on the number of people in the household they expect for a given period of time, and you tell them this is the kind of rainwater harvesting system that you need, so that you don't have shortage of water for people to use for consumption. Even in terms of planning for irrigation, I'm one of the proponents of bladders, using a bladder, or can I say a water balloon?
Yes.
Where you have, because it's a very cheap thing to do, you get a plastic sheeting and fill it with water, either from rainwater harvesting. It is partially submerged into the ground, it is protected there, it's not very expensive construction, and your water stays in the bladder. You can use that water for irrigation in dry areas. So if you have these innovations...
So that could mean if, like in any case, like as we're referring the case of Karamoja, if there was a deliberate, action to introduce such kind of projects, especially for water harvesting and so forth, we could not have the drought and we could not have the famine.
You would have addressed the water crisis in those actually call it the cattle corridor.
Because they do agriculture and livestock.
You can have water systems for domestic consumption and water system for irrigation and livestock, using very low cost infrastructure, which can be done by even the people in the village, because a bladder is something that is a plastic bag.
So what you could advise the government, because we are here, this is media. Media contributes to policy making, media contributes to policy analysis and evaluation. What you could advise the government, or myself as I do the critical analysis, is instead of not only stopping at solving the current famine of, distributing foodstuffs and so forth, they need to go beyond. And they invest in enabling the water harvest, distribution and establishment of such tanks.
So what you are seeing happening in Karamoja, and probably what happened here in Masaka, for food distribution, we are in a state of being reactive to a situation. We are not being proactive. We are supposed to be proactive.
Emergency responses.
We are
should you call it that?
We are just jumping to problems. A problem happens here, we jump. A problem there, we jump. So we are not strategic. We are not doing strategic interventions that are allowing us to solve the things that have been with us for a long time. First of all, let me say, famine is not new to us. Food is not, shortage is not new to us. Drought is not new to us. Yes? So why do we still continue to have these problems recurring over and over again, as if we do not have brains to think through the solution long term? I keep asking. I'm having a project in Kasese. I spent 2 weeks in Kasese on the mountain hill, and water is passing in the valley, which is about 500 meters deep, and people are going down the valley to pick the water, bring it up. But they don't have rainwater harvesting tanks on their houses, which are uphill.
They don't have water harvesting tanks.
No.
To get them seems to be difficult.
No.
And I don't know what to encourage us, especially the viewers, because I'm trying to put my position to the viewers. May say, how can we get them?
It's about mindset. actually irrigate using bottles.
Using this bottle?
Yeah, it works.
It works?
It works. The problem is you're going to have 100 bottles, yeah, or more on an acre of land, which means that every time this bottle empties, you must now come back with water to fill them. If you don't have a source of water, you're going to spend the whole day doing just that. Yet the other things you must do during the day for the household. So can we have systems that take away that intensiveness of labor? Yeah? That you don't have to focus your labor so much on this alone because you have other things to do, but have a technology that in the system that allows water to be brought at a low cost to the plants.
At a low cost to the plants, yes. Yes.
So you solve the problem of food production using the water, and also solve the problem of water in the home. And there are now cheap processes of filtering the water and making it clean and safe for human consumption.
So in other words, we are here in the center of Kampala and we are nearby Lake Victoria.
Yeah.
So, and Lake Victoria, to those who understand what Lake Victoria means, the biggest lake, right, in East Africa, right?
Yeah.
And it is worth with us, but we are not using it.
Yes.
May I say so?
Yes.
It is worth with us and we are not using it.
Let me tell you something. If needed be, as a government, you have Lake Kyoga. Could be a source of water connecting to the communities in Lake Kyoga. If you can't find the water in the ground. I don't see why in Kampala people are going without water. Kampala is at the bottom of Lake Victoria.
And they don't have water.
Look, Kampala is sitting on the bottom of Lake Victoria.
Just here, Port Barrier is there.
Here where we're sitting, once upon a time, was at the bottom of Lake Victoria.
Seriously?
4,000 years ago.
I didn't know that.
Once upon a time, where we are sitting now, was under the water. Okay?
What happened?
The water dried up and moved away. Okay? So now, what we are looking at is when you dig in Kampala, you don't need to go more than 30 meters
before accessing water.
Before hitting water. Some places you go 2 meters, 3 meters,
and you get water.
And you will get water. So why do we see a situation where people are spending their hard-earned money to buy water, a jerrycan of 500 liters? I mean, for 500 shillings. 20 liter jerrycan being bought when you can actually plan at a community level and have water that is from the ground. Uganda is rich in water. We cannot claim to be Saudi Arabia.
That's already the riches we have.
So this is why I'm saying we can't be in a bad state like Egypt, even South Sudan. We can't because we have the water here. So we have not deliberately invested in extracting that water. But I think it's also the mindset that we are putting people that if the water is not coming from National Water and Sewerage Corporation, it's difficult for you to access it. And I think for us, we need to move away from that.
But now the capacity, building the capacity, that's also what I would like you to appreciate of where our citizens who could want, even if it was myself, and I buy a plot, I construct, if I could have, any affordable way to access the very water you're talking about. I believe every one of us could want to have water. But the capacity, like if you talk about accessing it through digging a water borehole, it costs a lot of money.
Yes, it does. So, but if you compare the amount of money you'd be spending on buying jerrycans over a period of years,
for 30 years or
say 3 years, 5 years, the money you would have put in buying water, and remember, you're not getting the enough water.
So you could go for your water borehole, and then you again have tanks. Yes. And again, with a deliberate plan to go for fish farming, and then use your water.
For those who are next to streams, they can take advantage of the streams and
collect to the tanks.
You don't even need to go very far. This is the stream, okay? Dig up a pit, like a tank in the stream. Allow the stream to go its natural course. It will fill up this tank here.
Then finally, you fill the tank.
For you, come and obstruct the water here.
After digging the stream.
After putting whether it's a culvert that you have used or whatever it is, you're using that as a source of water. Yeah. So it's about, I like this gentleman on TV.
Which one?
Toli Mwavu.
That's the insightful. That's the insightful kind of message I'm
that just gentleman inspires me.
Looking at that.
Toli Mwavu.
Nayo mutwe.
Mutwe gogweti.
You are not poor, but your mind.
Your brain.
Your brain.
Oli mwavu mutwe. So for me, he hits the mark.
Thank you. We are going for a short commercial break, and we will be coming for the last session with us, and we will be looking at why has there been reluctance to emphasize the conservation of our forestry. And we look at Mabira and we look at other areas which have been encroached on, yet both our key role partners, stakeholders, the NGO, the government, we seem to be having different view. And also look at how to manage also the wetlands. Yeah. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. Wait for us as we come back from the commercial break. You can't miss this information for you.
Smart 24, driving business.
Hai Sabasajja Kabaka. Nze Musajawo Wim Van Helleputte Senkulu wa MTN. Abakozi ba MTN bona awamu na bantu bo wano mukatale Chibuye.
Nafe abakatale kennatete nafe abokatale ko Kalerwi.
Kuyozayoza n'essanyu lingi.
Okutuuka ku matikira ago agabirimu omwenda. Tusaba Mukama Katonda ayongere okukuuma
ng'olamu n'Obuganda.
Wangala aibene, wangala nnyo maaso moji.
Zizinga, wait.
Yeah?
Ka selfie.
Wow. Do you have the MyGo TV app? Oh, do you use star 206 hash? Labono. Bwe life tekina kunyumira. With the MyGo TV app over star 206 hash, you can make payments, you can change package, you can fix errors, you can check your balance anytime, anywhere.
Download the MyGo TV app from Google Play Store or the App Store or dial star 206 hash.
Ha! My phone!
Go TV Uganda. Love it.
Music is fuel that fires up our souls. Today, African music has a dominant place on the world map. This massive music movement creating waves across the globe.
I have seen the evolution and the growth of this industry.
But every movement starts with a story. And the best place to start any story is at the very beginning.
There's a primordial energy that can only have come from Africa.
This is Jordan. When it comes to classwork, Jordan is magic. Jordan shines. Jordan makes his peers better. Jordan is a true leader. White Star Magic family, be a leader, be magic.
He must be rich, tall, handsome, from a respectable family. He must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
Owa, obadde olobye ku ssimu?
Ya munange, anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumirwa omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya UTV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data.
UTV channels.
Say goodbye to paperwork and travel costs. Now every MTN customer can register to invest in securities anytime and anywhere with Zabu in a few simple steps. Step 1. Dial star 292 hash. Step 2. Select option 1. register with Zabu. Step 3, enter your full names. Step 4, enter your national identification number. Step 5, enter your national identification card number. In 24 hours, you will receive an SMS confirming your registration. Congratulations, you are now ready to invest.
Every new day brings new opportunities for you to conquer the business world. Start your day with a show that will drive your business. Be the first to know the latest prices around town, the latest business information around the country and the world. We bring you in-depth analysis with exclusive interviews from key players. And of course, wouldn't you want that for your morning? Get up to speed with what is trending in the business world, all in one morning show. Smart Means Business with your favorite guy, Joram Post Sonko, every weekday, Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 10:50 a.m. as we drive you into the business world. This is Smart 24.
Smart 24, driving business.
Welcome back from the commercial break, dear viewers and listeners. We are privileged to have this talk show dealing with climate change. My name remains Dr. Joseph Tindewa, and with our guest, Dr. Henry Mugisha. We have gone through a number of issues, looking at the insights and possibly coming out with the foresights that can guide the policymakers if they are willing to have the political patriotism. The love of our country is important. Climate change is an element that has been cited all over the world, that it is an aspect that we can concentrate on if you want to have sustainable development. I come with this analytical view as a public policy analyst and looking at, together with our guest, a number of policy priorities that have been put forward. Again, being reminded that the energy world is of recent getting, interested much more even in these issues. At first, I remember the energy world was much more concerned on electoral democracy, accountability. But besides all that, this is a great area. I believe that the government should support such kind of NGOs to register and support where they are having gaps. The intervention of NGOs, most importantly, is such a kind of a demandable role you play, since you do fill gaps where they're existing, but not taking on the role of the government. But still remains the core of government, looking at the following policy priorities that you approved in 2015. One, we have talked about agriculture and livestock, water, fisheries, and aquaculture. Then there is something important that the guests will talk about in this last session, as we will be coming up with recommendations as well, looking at transport and works, and which seems to be degrading our environment because of the nature of how we are managing transport, relating it with climate change. A lot is desirable to be done. And forestry, we've had before those who were good activists of development that were very much passionate against the destruction of Mabira forest, which has, I believe, a diverse effect on climate change and the general livelihood of the people. And remember the controversy, how it was to be, be tampered, be demolished to see the end of that forestry in favor of growing sugarcane. We're also aware of wetland. The conversation on wetlands, managing wetlands, is still unresolved. We also look at the biodiversity and ecosystem services. It's not clearly, known to many. These are good environmental technical terms, but which needs to be interpreted by a certain, sheikh or we call them the teachers, the imams
yes.
down there in Chenjojo, yes. in West Nile, yes. And that relationship of stakeholder participation is important. Yes. Another area which you maybe also highlight on and give a recommendation will be health. The energy sector, you have already talked about it. Wildlife and tourism, this is another sensitive area that the country needs to look at, especially as we manage our climate change and again bring income to our people and to the national revenue. It contributes as the number one, tourism, to the economic growth of this country. Yeah. That's what research has it for us. Then human settlement and social infrastructure needs in Uganda needs attention because everyone builds the way we want. If one want to build like this, the house is like this, another one who gets it. These days, like on Ukawaka's land here in Kampala, one who gets it, put it, they say, we're in ghetto, and everyone views the way we want.
Yes.
And it looks to not be having attention by the policy makers, the KCC, the Ministry of Environment Planning. And we also look at disaster risk management, still lacks the way how it is being dealt with. Then, of course, the cross-cutting issues, which will be the last. We look at the vulnerable groups. Me, I'm always here campaigning, not campaigning for politics, looking at the current situation in the city. We have the vulnerable group of young children who are from Karamoja, and they are everywhere, and everybody is looking on. The religious leaders, the religious institutions are looking on. The politicians who are driving the V8s, you are passing by those children, you are looking on. The police, you are looking on. And these are vulnerable groups. They have effect also on climate change. A lot is desirable. So you can come on and you'll be giving us recommendation, you highlight over it, and as we conclude our program.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity again. I just want to talk about our role as NGOs. I know that the president has severally bashed us and even called us mandazi eaters and all those kind of words. But I think for me, I go beyond those kind of statements and state that we have a role and we have demonstrated that we are useful players to this government.
Yes, sir.
Because I was part of the team that was campaigning against the destruction of Mavira. I've been part of the team that was having discussions over the Bujagali Dam project. And even at that time when we were agitating about the governance of the forest, environment and energy sector, it was because we were not getting information from government. And so that's why we had that kind of impasse that happened. But I can tell you today that the NGOs that were around 20 years ago, we are not the same people that were around 20 years ago. We have also grown and changed our minds on how to work with the government, because this government belongs to all of us.
Yes, sir.
We must all work for its growth and development. I would like to live in a city which is developed and is giving us the kind of social services and social goods that all of us can be proud of. So we are partners with the government in this development process. And so the views and ideas that we are sharing here are intended for the development and betterment of Uganda. And so having made that political statement,
a civil society statement,
political statement,
yes.
I want to now go back to some of the issues. We've just touched about how we can deal with the water problem,
yes,
the energy problem, the food problem, and also you raise the issue of biodiversity,
and also transport and works, then forestry.
And so let me address the issue of, for example, transport.
Yes, sir.
And I just earlier on had talked about the way we construct our roads without proper drainage channels, and then our roads don't last long, and we also build roads that are not to standard. 1 inch layer of tarmac on Maram in a place which is full of rain and without a drainage, what do you expect? Water is going to go under that small tarmac layer and lift it up, and you have what?
In 1 week after spending billions of money,
you have potholes.
We lose it.
We should be able to understand that the nature of our soils, of the way we construct, prevents the tarmac from being lifted off, and so that the road lasts 25 years.
But my elder brother, yes. It is very clear. I'm not portioning blame, but I continue again to hinge on the way how technocrats transit a policy into effective actions. We have engineers, we have technocrats that under the office, for instance, if you say Minister of Transport, the PS, they have commissioners, they have engineers that are paying them money. Why fail to advise government, especially in undertaking those contracts with these Chinese, so that they don't do such kind of work, which we do implement after borrowing, seriously borrowing from, world financial institutions, global financial institutions?
I think for me, it's not that there is poor designing. At bidding and contracting level, the documents that get into the bidding process for road designs and whatever, I believe, I have not seen them, but I believe to this day that the bids that come to the contracting level offer the best road. But when it comes to actual construction, something happens around there and we end up with a substandard road beyond what had been in the bid documents. And I want to believe that
something happened there.
Something happens in between
in
there.
The courts.
That yes, that we never seem to translate what was on the design paper to what goes on the ground.
I get you now.
So that's where the problem is, and that's why we need to address the problem. Because what's on the paper is good, but what gets on the ground is a different thing. So you find ourselves that we are busy repairing the same kilometer of road every 3 years, and that's not sustainable. So we need to move around. We should be increasing the mileage of the roads that we construct and covering other areas. And so the other thing maybe on transport that I want to talk about is the issue of pollution.
And the railway.
We don't have a public transport system. That's why each one of us, whenever we make some little money, the first thing you are thinking about is buying a car of 5 million shillings so that you can solve the transport problem. In the process, we are congesting too many vehicles in a very small space. So is it possible that we can have a public transport rail? I wish we could even revive the railway system from Kasese, those to Soroti and the rest, to Mombasa, so that we can reduce the cost of bringing goods to Kampala. Kampala is one of the most expensive cities to do business in terms of bringing in goods from abroad, because you have to bring them by road.
By road, yes.
And that is almost twice the cost of bringing the goods by rail. So we need to revive our railway system. And also, is it possible for us to have a rail line in the middle of Kampala? Look at Kampala, right? The center of Kampala Road. Can we have a circuit running around the city so that people can jump on a train to come to the city? Running in the middle of the city.
Our dear guest, on that point, I applaud you very much. And it's not difficult if there is political willingness and political patriotism.
There is political patriotism. There is political patriotism. Why? Because we have the policies in place. We have the laws in place. We have the institutions in place. We are lacking political patriotism. That's for me the missing link, because if we had political patriotism, and patriotism is not something that is inculcated in you.
I want to agree with you.
It is something that you have inherent in you. I don't need to go to Chankwanzi to be patriotic to Uganda. I love my country. Every time I'm coming back to the Entebbe airport and I hear those men and ladies saying, all the Ugandans that are returning home, you are welcome back to Uganda, I feel extremely happy.
I have something to say. Political patriotism and political
will and
political will. I'm comparing it to a religious statement of action, where one brings to you, I will use Christianity as a Christian, and you come with the Bible, you say, love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yes.
You have the Bible is clear, and that's the greatest law.
Yes.
And yet, as you are saying, love your neighbor as you love yourself, behind you have a gun and you begin to shoot people.
Yes.
Should I say that you have a good will, good religious will? You are a total hypocrite.
You don't have both. You don't have political will and you don't have political patriotism.
That's why I come back to our state of situation. And I'm not blaming the whole system of government, but there are people who are trading these kind of sentimental actions not by sentiment, but even in action. They are in action. They are doing it. And at times you find that few people are debating for it. You come and you say you love Uganda. Even you go maybe to Chankwanzi, you say, I am now a card of whatever kind. But now when you go to oversee a project, like as we are talking about the construction of roads, and those who are in the planning, those who are doing the planning, the Prime Minister who is supposed to oversee the implementation of this project, the Minister of Transport, who is a senior citizen, you know him, and we continue. Then finally, when we go to look at what is happening, we find it is a different outcome. Don't you think we need a serious panel beating on both?
Let me show you from where the area, I see the area, the problem comes to.
Because now this is the issue of governance, because we are dealing with climate change management, dear viewers, and it's an area of recommendation that our dear guest maybe is about to make a statement. Governance, climate change management, it does not leave out the issue of policy governance. No. And that's what we would like to emphasize, and then you will recommend.
No, you can't divorce it from our day-to-day management.
Yes, sir.
But I also want to address to you, in my opinion, what I think is the reason for the corruption that we see. The reason that we have corruption is because our remuneration systems do not give decent retirement to our people. When you're a public officer and you retire, whatever level it is, yes, you retire into poverty. You have given away your 30, 40 years of service to a state which does not honor you when you leave the service. Because you know the pensions that are paid to public servants once they retire. And so what happens? Public servants are tempted to secure their future.
You have 2 minutes to make your recommendations and conclude. Yes.
They have to secure their future before they leave. And that's where corruption comes in. But I want to say that the biodiversity question, once you address the energy problem and allow the forest estate to regenerate, the biodiversity and ecosystem services will be catered for.
Yes, sir.
I would like to see a situation where we have housing estates that are built deliberately by the state, where we can buy the city, as citizens we can acquire those houses and own them, instead of all of us building houses to avoid the congestion you were talking about. And then the other thing is the issue of health. Once you sort out the water problem, the medication problem, hospitals are properly facilitated, you will have addressed, and we have a health system that doesn't care about a citizen. Yeah, and you want to tax me and also leave the burden of providing Medicare to myself. That's not nice for the
What's
citizen.
your last recommendation and word to the viewers?
So I think for me, what I would say is that let's continue the discussion.
Yes, please.
And let people begin to look into their hearts and begin to work for this state, for this country, for the betterment of this country. Because and also, can we have a framework that allows our public servants a decent send away, to retirement, so that we don't have these temptations that we see happening around of corruption. And my last point would say is that as members of the NGO society, we are committed and we are willing to continue to support the government of Uganda to build its revenue base and also to innovate new ideas that can help our country go forward.
Thank you so much, dear viewers, for staying with us on Smart 24 TV, and our dear guest. We appreciate, and I promise, as I will talk also with the management, we will always avail to you every month a program where you can come and share information.
I'm honored.
Count on us, we are your partners. Tell your team members that Smart 24 TV is interested to ensure climate change can be a steering up factor for economic livelihoods of the people. Please, dear viewers, see you again as we continue to discuss matters that can transform our community and our generation. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Yes, please.